excited to welcome our special guest, Jabari Jefferson, for today's episode. Jabari C Jefferson is a mixed media figurative painter who earned a degree in art with a concentration in painting, film direction, and art administration. Jabari continued his education with a residency at the renowned International Center for the Arts in Monte Castello, Italy, followed by many more commendable professional practices to enhance his career, development, and recognition as a creative. His vibrant multimedia paintings are layered with found objects such as books, fabric, paper, ink, acrylic, and oil. Welcome, Jabari. Thank you for taking the time out to speak with us today.
Of course, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So first, before we jump right in, how have you been with everything that is happening in the world right now?
I think these last 6 months, everybody's been affected in a lot of different ways. But I think it's important to remember, everyone's narrative isn't the same. And there's a lot of blessings going on right now at the same time, too, that's affecting people. So I've been very fortunate to, be mentally okay, emotionally okay, receiving even blessings in the material and stuff. So it's been a really good reflective period, but also, a good learning period of just seeing the state that we all are in, socially, politically, at times. So it's a lot of pros and cons.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from and where did you grow up?
Yeah, I'm Washingtonian, born and raised, fifth generation is deep. But haven't lived in DC in a while, actually.
Yeah.
Living in Chicago and Virginia and just different places like that. But I grew up, I think I had a wonderful childhood. My father is a musician, sorry. So the arts was naturally embraced, and my mom was very spiritual and enthusiastic about what I would do. So I was very well supportive. So yeah, good.
Awesome.
Good upbringing.
What type of musician was your dad? Like, what did he do?
He is. He's a jazz musician.
Oh, wow.
Drummer,
okay.
Actually. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
He's also a librarian, so he multitasks his both careers.
Wow. That's awesome. My aunt is actually like a jazz musician currently, has been for years in the DC area. So we know each other.
Yeah, I'm sure. DC.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's small. Like, we know each other, and the same for music. It's like, if you're from DC and you're creative, somebody knows somebody.
Right.
So let's talk about your work. When I look at it, it appears to be very symbolic. What materials do you use, and how do those tools help establish a foundation for the messages or stories that you want to portray?
Yeah. So although I've been practicing art for years and was a traditional painter, I've always gravitated to like mixed media materials, which is basically, using an abundance of variety of materials from different sources, all to make for one intention. So that's what I've really been doing. And for the last few years, I've been developing an ongoing series called the Library Series, which was just a symbolic representation of focusing on ourselves to like grow more, learn more, whether it's about yourself or the world around you, to enhance yourself.
Right.
And, I didn't see specifically with representation, I didn't see imagery that represented me in spaces like those. You would see images of us, that deal with like a day in the life or like, freedom or, just naturalism. But I didn't see the intent of putting our images in associations with places of growth and enlightenment and enhancement, mentally and emotionally, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I was working with the library as a symbolic form that was universal, because the symbol of the library for man, woman, and child around the globe, we all know what that means or what that's associated with. So I was using that as the baseline of my practice, and that's definitely grown. And so then it became a bit more ritualistic through my studies of understanding, well, the materials I'm using and the process is very tedious, so I got to go, I would go and gather these materials and kind of switching from traditional stuff like that you buy from the store to actually like repurposing materials. And that's Yeah.
Where would you gather them, or where would you find
Yeah,
these objects?
So when I got to the point where I wanted to activate my art more, and when I say
Mm-hmm.
that, have it more than just an image, but actually embody a presence or
Oh.
some form of energy,
Mm-hmm.
I realized I had to use materials that actually had energy in it. So I would go to
Oh.
different communities and Black communities and get unused items and furnitures and fabrics,
Mm-hmm.
just different stuff that was once cherished and occupied. So it has that energy in it. And I
Right.
would break it down into the pieces that I needed and kind of create a palette from there. So
Wow.
then using that plus my painting skills and everything else I've learned, I think I was able to make work that's more than just an image.
Of course, yeah. So, what does your creative process involve? Are you a music listener? Do you work better at a certain time of day? And just what's your process overall? You don't have to get too personal, because I know that sometimes artists don't want to share their tricks and their trades, but just like what inspires you to
Yeah.
create a piece?
Yeah, no, I don't mind sharing.
Okay.
It's very interesting because, if you study history and culture, art was always wasn't secretive, but it was kind of mysterious in a way. Like a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
processes weren't seen by the eye. A lot of
Right.
art that you see in museums actually wasn't meant for the public to see in some
Mm.
places. So it's always interesting when we reveal certain things, but I don't mind.
Okay.
In terms of like my work ethic and stuff like that, um, I'm fortunate enough to be able to practice art full time every day. So,
Mm.
studio space, you kind of want to exist if you have the ability to exist like outside of the clock. So it's
Right.
just you kind of create your own time zone. So me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I I work best at night, but I might, work throughout the day. But when the sun goes down, like I'll start at like 11 and I'll work
Mm-hmm.
when the sun comes up. And and so your sleep pattern is off, but it's all good. And so when I work, um, it depends. I used to listen to a lot of turn up music when I was like, younger and stuff, because I was more so making work for competitive reasons, and that
Okay.
really fueled me.
Mm-hmm.
But I I I'm always busy, so I don't never have a time to sit down and read. So like
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I found out like this loophole of just like listening to lectures and books and different stuff while
Mm-hmm.
I work. So I
Right.
was able to knock two birds out with one stone, and I'm able to still get my education and stuff, which
Yes.
is great. So I listen to, I listen to different. I like to learn when I work
Okay.
because that enhances me. I think when you work on something else and you're learning, your subconscious brain picks it up better.
This is true, definitely. So how do you know when your work is done? Is it ever done? Are you constantly like wanting to change something, even though you feel like, one day it was complete and then the next day you're like, oh my God, I need to add some more, or I need to portray this differently?
Right. It's a relationship, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The work speaks to you. You gotta. I tell a lot of my students this when I work with them, because I have a
Mm-hmm.
private practice of working with coaching artists one on one. But I
Oh,
tell
that's
them,
great. Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course. I'm gonna send that information to
Please
you.
do. You can, we'll share everything. So if you can
Yeah,
just hand
yeah.
me everything you have.
I'm definitely gonna. I launched it earlier in the summer, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna expand it more in August, especially as
Excellent.
the fall approaching.
Mm-hmm.
But
Definitely.
no, you teach them that the piece has to tell you what's up. So you're working and working, and you got to get away from that plan mindset, that sketch, all that stuff. You're working,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taught you need to step away from the work.
Right.
Like go do something else and see it with fresh eyes. Go do
Mm-hmm.
something else and go, come back for a couple of days. And when you look at it again, it'll immediately tell you what's up because you got fresh eyes. So you can
Right.
immediately see, oh, like your ego went down too. So you can see it for
Mm-hmm.
what it is. You see the mistakes, you see what can be better, you see if it's giving um, uh, that ideal feeling that you're trying to achieve. And you also know when to touch it. So, you'll get to this kind of sweet spot where it's kind of hard to judge because you're excited. So the piece
Mm-hmm.
could be like really, really dope, right? But something might be just a little bit off, but it's dope enough for you to think it's done. So a lot of work should be done. And if you were like a little tiny bit more patient, that last little thing would have came up to really take
Yeah,
it over the top. So it's a
exactly. Yeah.
relationship with you. It depends how much patience you have, to be honest.
Definitely. And with my own work, I always find that if I take a picture and then move away from it, I can have that picture as like a reminder of what I was
Yeah.
working on. Then when I come back, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I see exactly what I need to fix.
Yeah, you
So
should look at
I
that
absolutely,
picture when you're out and about. If you're at dinner,
yeah.
look at it real quick. take the if the piece is accessible enough, like put it in a different room or outside and like look at
Yeah.
it from far away. Like
Yep.
your phone, all you want to just see it in different ways because each time will reveal something new.
Yes, absolutely. So, you have an amazing educational background. What was your experience like studying in Italy? How were you able to gain the opportunity to study abroad?
Yeah. No, that was so about 2000 summer of 2017. I spent that
Hmm.
summer in Italy in Umbria,
Okay.
and more so the countryside. But there, so it was a residency program. It's pretty intense. Nothing but like painters, and it was really dope. My first time
Wow.
here. And we would I mean, it was like painting boot camp. Like the sun would rise, and I mean, we had a private chef, and we had this
Oh.
space, and we were staying in this old village. So it looked like some Jesus of Nazareth stuff. Like they had barns at the bottom of the buildings, the homes, because that used to heat up the building or whatever. But anyway, no, we would just be studying and painting, and that experience taught me how to see, because the light in Italy is much different and vast. And then on the weekends and different stuff, we would travel to different places. So like
That's
Rome,
awesome. Yeah. Hmm.
study. So I would see a lot of kind of sacred spaces and museums and all that.
Hmm.
I mean, but that
Hmm.
was through undergrad. I just saw the opportunity and I went for it. I had a good
Yeah,
relationship with
definitely.
my professor who lived in Italy. And I didn't get it the first time, but I like
Hmm.
pretty persistent with it because I was just like, this is the move.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, what would be the three most inspiring experiences from that opportunity abroad? Like, what did you gain from it? Were there things that you learned, or did it inspire you to create more?
Yeah, no, I think
Hmm.
I saw some of the most beautiful things ever. Because I would go to these museums that you only want to, like, once upon a time people would travel the world to that one place to see that museum because you couldn't
Hmm.
see it. So even today, like, I wouldn't have that experience of just like those mental downloads of like
Right.
possibilities and stuff.
Hmm.
Just at one point in time we had traveled to this top of this mountain, so it took hours on the bus to get up there, and then we were so high up that when the clouds were roamed, the whole thing you can just see it. It was just like dark. I
Wow.
actually have a photo on the Instagram up there,
Hmm.
but we went up there to paint, and so it just that all the time and effort to like reach the top of this mountain, and we got our painting supplies and we're climbing the mountain even higher just
Hmm.
to paint. It was like just one of those lifetime experiences that was just like it's like
You'll
initiation of
never forget it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
an artist for real. Like
So, did it change how you worked, or did it inspire you to kind of um, work differently? Was there anything
um
else that you kind of gained from that experience?
I mean, like I said, the main thing is it just really trained my eye. I always say
Oh,
that
okay, yeah.
I went to Italy is when I learned how to see. So
Mm,
that goes in a different aspect. So even as a painter, like you see the way light, because there's no such thing as color. It's just
mm-hmm,
light that hits the planet and reflects.
mm-hmm,
So you see, it would taught me to see the way that light moves in a way that you would never really pay attention to before. Because not just being there, but I was getting instructions from professors. I mean, painters. They would bring these artists, residential artists that would come and would teach us that. So that, and then just from the things I saw that inspired my imagination, fed my eye of like
yeah.
beauty. So my standards of beauty from either seeing it or creating it has enhanced, in my opinion.
Awesome. So, would you recommend artists to travel or do a study abroad if they're in school?
Oh, of course. I mean, I
Hmm.
would recommend to do it in general. Like,
Yeah.
a close friend of mine, he is a very dope artist, and he went and did the same thing, same Italy thing after I did. And ever
Hmm.
since then, like we meet up and we'll go to different places, like even in the States, like
Yeah.
Boston or different places, because we want to kind of recapture that Italy experience into the States.
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
we got dope museums too that you sleep
Yeah.
on that's in different states. We got open land and just it's all what you make it. So
Right.
I mean, I think traveling feeds the soul for everybody, but specifically artists, because you gotta build some content of your imagination. If you're not
Hmm.
seeing new things and put in new places, if your senses aren't picking up new stuff, you'll still be fine,
Like
but it's
just
a lot of
idle.
untapped potential that you'll never know. So I
Right.
definitely say don't even wait till school. Like there's plenty of programs out here. Even when I was teaching, you know, we set up a study abroad program for some kids and stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
but we went through, they was young kids, and we went through this program called educational tours. So they just this program that like links people that want to go abroad, and we went to Costa Rica for a few weeks. It was pretty dope. So you don't have to be in school.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. So let's see. For our listeners who are thinking about pursuing a degree in art, do you feel that the education you received, was worth it?
Um, yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings about school in general, specifically for one in general, two because of the times that we're living in, and I feel it's obsolete. And then three, just as an artist, I was fortunate. So I went to HBCU before my first 2
Okay.
years.
Which
And I
one, if you don't mind me asking?
oh yeah, Lincoln University in
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
First HBCU. So
Mm-hmm.
all that, and then I transferred to an Ivy League art school, which was number 2 in the country at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, you know, I had scholarships to go to other schools, full scholarships, but I chose that school because of the prestige and, you know, Chicago and what they had to offer.
Yes.
And when I got there, you know, it was cool, but like I I think schools be dope, but they don't be yielding like a dope environment in terms of people. So they had everything in the world. Like it was, I saw where my money's going. But in terms of the quality of people, I think sometimes we like it gets hyped. So like if you at Yale, you think yeah, it's Yale, but it'll be like regular people. It'll be like it's just like, oh, okay. And I think the school prepared me, but it was more so for like studio stuff and like creative stuff, but
Yeah.
not practical things in terms of sustainability or just wealth. And for an artist, from artist point of view, your
Mm-hmm.
options, you know, that
Well,
type of
yeah.
mindset of how do you eat, how do you sustain all this. They didn't teach you none of that. So like entrepreneurship, I had to learn all that on my own. Like even when I
Yeah.
was in undergrad, I was running my own business that was called Visual Culture at the time, and it was a platform of representing artists. So I went to
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, and I like went to my school as well as local artists and like just all the dope artists I could find in Chicago. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna represent y'all. I'm gonna put up we want pop-up shows called Art Wanted and all this
That's
other stuff.
funny.
And the
Yeah.
whole thing was about art. That's why I got an art admin. Like
Yeah.
I gotta know how to like not just create dope stuff, but be how does this work? How did the person
Mm-hmm.
that guides this to happen and benefits financially off of that? So I mean, no one pursued me to do that, but I did it on my own because I knew. And so I think if you do go to these schools and stuff like that, you gotta have that dosage of it because they're not gonna give that to you. And
I
once
agree.
school is over, it's on you.
I agree because it's quite funny. I went to an art school as well. And I also, like you, took the initiative of making things that I felt weren't being received and making it happen on my own. So similar thing is in
Have to.
getting some artists together. We're going to have a show, figure out how to do professional development on our
Yeah.
own. So I definitely can understand
But
that.
it's crappy when you're spending like a lot of
A
money.
lot of money. It is
But
not
like,
cheap to
so
go
I
to art
gotta
school.
do this plus spend a lot, and you see where your money's going to. But and then lastly on that, I was just gonna say, you know, it's 2020, and if you know, going back to your first question, if you didn't peep how how this COVID thing, all the examples just taught us, you know, even
Mm-hmm.
kids don't even know they're gonna go to school.
Yeah.
You're seeing that's why I said the opportunity of different ways to do this. In my
Yeah.
opinion, institutional brick and mortars have been obsolete for some time, and that's why they lack in substance. They still have the prestige, but they're just eating at this point, like just making guap. They're
Mm.
corporations. So if we still want that true, authentic education aspect of what it was meant to be, it's going to fall on us. And this is why
Mm.
these virtual things are coming in and don't need it. Like there's online class, this a lot of stuff happening, and these things actually have way more substance than you would get from any institution that you'd have spent $50,000 to $100,000 on.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Save money on gas in the subway to get there as well.
Hold on, I just want to grab my charger right
No
quick.
problem.
Okay.
All right. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, no, we can continue. Wait, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So, how important are titles to your paintings?
Um, it's not that important because unless someone is there or something is written for it to say it holds no weight. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you think of the things you see in museums and stuff like that, I mean, it's the thing that captured and attracts you,
Mm-hmm.
and you can read the title if you want to. That's in general. Now, if I think if the piece is very intentional, that makes the title intentional. Like
Right.
if I paint a person and this is like you know a specific person that I'm trying to either pay homage to or whatever, then the name falls because it's a link to it. But you know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's as important as you make it.
Yeah, definitely. What areas of your work or personal development are you hoping to explore further this year and in
Um,
the future?
yeah, no, I've actually been going ongoing like this really trippy transitional period of growth. Right, it's
Mm-hmm.
been this whole year of growth, but just really the last couple months. Artistically, I've actually have um, been very grateful to come across a direction that I feel really resonates with me, and I feel like it's the next iteration of my artistic art practice, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been what it's been leading to. So I'm very excited about that, and that's dealing with when I got into art. I just wanted to make dope stuff. That's what I always say as a kid. I would say I just
Right.
want to make dope shit. But then I got to the point of like when I started learning different stuff and going through enlightenment, I was like, yo, whatever feeling this is, I want to communicate this in my work.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo, the idea of like self-education, self-enlightenment, all that other
Right.
stuff. And I want to perpetuate that. So, but before I was doing that through the library series, I was doing pieces, and this is where titles would come in. I would call them spiritual pieces. So
Mm-hmm.
I would try to tell like something like enlightenment and put it all in one piece. And it'd be like this this kind of illustrative representation or whatever. And then it would be dope and people would like it, but they would really like it when they understood what it meant, which means I like
Right.
to sit next to it and go on this big rant. And it was cool, but it was exhausting. So I had to figure out what's a more practical way of saying what I need to say without me being there, um, and having existed when I don't understand it. So that's why I started getting a symbolism, which led to the library series. So
Mm.
now, still off that same thing with spirituality, spiritual energy, and now having understanding art not so for like Western culture or today's time, but really seeing it from an astroteric point of view of what it means to really make art and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've been inspired and gained enough strength to take my practice off of canvas, because just the four-dimensional 2D thing I think is cool, and I think it can be financially rewarding, but for me it's time to move on. So
Yeah.
now I'm really interested in activating spaces, activating objects, not just for the sake of beauty, but for the sake of purpose. Like they're actually doing something. You can interact with them. They have a lingering presence that will be there long after I'm gone. Like and they don't the presence and energy is felt without me being there, anything being written or a title. So that's the direction I'm going in. So
That would be exciting because I feel like your work is, in a good way, obsessive, but like overwhelming at the same time, as in like it's in your face, it's loud. And I feel like that the canvas confines it in a small space,
yeah,
even
yeah.
no matter how large it is. So just imagining it being an installation or a sculpture would completely like,
Yeah, no, well, I have a lot of great ideas that I'm working
yeah,
on right now
expand it.
that's
Mm-hmm.
for interior and exterior spaces. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, what I'm about to do now is just a prerequisite for like larger things. Like, it's we gotta there's a lot of work to be done just even
Mm-hmm.
in our community, because if we want to talk ownership, well, that falls on a lot of different stuff. Like, what does
Yeah,
your art really look like? What does your culture really look like
definitely.
this is the sacred spaces that I'm talking about are going to be prerequisite for when I have
Mm.
the capability to create temples in the future. So like really like that's why I said certain spaces that at one point in time people traveled around the world to come see this, to feel that energy. And that energy will embody our image as it did. I mean, all the stuff we see is our image, whether the nose is off or not, but contemporary, you know. And I think not just myself, but it's a lot of thinkers that we have right now that were born at similar time periods. And I look forward to seeing what they end up doing as they grow.
Definitely.
We all got the same wave. So we're creating it right now. The future, our future is being created by us right now. So it's pretty dope.
Absolutely. So where can I get prints? Where can our listeners get prints of your paintings? How can our listeners keep up with you and your artistic journey?
So like I said, my name is Jabari C Jefferson. So that's the same thing as my site.com. That's where you see the entire catalog of my work. That's the best way to get in contact with me, as well as social media. I am no social media guru, but if you'll understand what you need to understand by going through that as well. Prints can be purchased through my site. Just reach out to me. Actually, what I've started doing at first, when I first did prints, I had like a set number. I had like 5 different pieces. Whatever pieces I was doing at that time, I made prints of. But now it's been a couple of years, and a lot of people are hitting me up for things I don't have prints of. So what I'm doing now is, when you do hit me up, you can just choose whatever image that really falls to you, and I will get that custom made for you. And it comes, small print, but it comes matted in frame. It's really nice. So that, and then also with my educational pursuit, well, I've always been an educator, but with my art coaching, it originally was for youth, for like young artists that have a lot of potential that could use some mentoring and coaching to really bring it out of them. But I'm expanding it to older artists as well, like that want to kind of get their foot in the door, that either have interest in making work and they just want to get an education on how do I go about this, or they're a little bit more serious and they're like, I want to do this for real.
Brilliant.
And I want to do, it's also a component that I'm working on for like young kids, because those K1s, when I used to teach them, there's something special. They love art. Like they don't even need all that fluff. They just need that space.
They love life and people and art and everything
and like
in general.
People, and they want to show the work, and so I want to create a space for like young kids as well, especially because they've been in the house where they know on a weekly basis, art club is going to be on this, and we can log in and they can see their friends. That's
wonderful. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation and that you've agreed to do this and speak on our podcast. This has been wonderful.
If your listeners don't know how awesome you are, you're really dope.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to conclude, and then, you can go about your day. Thank you so much for tuning in, Creative Habits Podcast. I'm your host, Indigo. We're based in Washington, D.C., with leading discussions on topics surrounding pop culture, business, lifestyle, and art, with occasional guest appearances within the creative and entrepreneurial industry. Thank you, Jabari. Have a great day.